All right, I see everybody connecting to audio. Hey, this is kind of fun. I'm looking around and I'm seeing faces that are starting to feel familiar. So welcome back. This is the San Diego Angel Conference for Entrepreneurs Track. Happy to have you here with us tonight. We've got two great presenters, actually two of my favorite presenters, some really fantastic content for you tonight, and then lots of time for Q&A as well. So we're going to go ahead and jump straight in tonight. So glad that you could all be here with us. Here's my thought for the day. Not to be a success, but rather to be of value. And I like this picture of Albert Einstein specifically because he looks tired. And I think sometimes being of value is also the good kind of tired. So anyway, I thought I'd combine those two things and give us a piece to sort of start the process and thinking tonight before I hand it off to our speakers. I wanted to also switch up the slides a little bit. We're trying to do some clarifications about our how we're organized and our role. This program is brought to you by University of San Diego. They're the host for this program. I work for the Free Enterprise Institute, which is seated in the School of Business and serves campus-wide. And it holds a number of different programs, one of which is the San Diego Angel Conference. Another is a student-facing program called the Catalyzer. And I'm not sure if Diana is here tonight, but if she is, I'll give her a chance to say hello. And then also the Brink SBDC. And if you don't know about the Brink's the #1 rated accelerator in the San Diego region by the San Diego Business Journal. They've helped over 1,200 clients over the last 3 years. I think active rosters around 650. Got a fantastic team of consultants that work full-time to support startups like yours, and the services are underwritten by the Small Business Administration. So they are free and confidential, which is two of my favorite things, free and confidential. With that, I know Rachel's here. Rachel's actually acting as the host tonight. And so Rachel, if there's anything that you'd like to share with this group, I'd like to invite you to jump in.
I was just chatting, just come check us out, chat at the team page. On the top of every page, there's a blue button that says sign up for services. We really work really closely with companies that are going through this e-track. We can do some additional support. We have office hours every Tuesday to kind of get you ready for the same topic that we would talk about on Wednesdays. So really trying to just offer some comprehensive support. So if you would like to work with us on really anything from product to different financing options for your startup, as well as things that are related to product and marketing, come chat with us. I'll also make sure to give you my email. And I wanted to make a special plug. If you're like coming from this session, you're like, I really just want to do a deeper dive into areas related to my customer and my market and the fit and the channeling, et cetera. We do have a 10-week series starting actually tomorrow. We've got about 1 or 2 spots left. So I'll chat that application if anybody really wants to do a deep dive. So thanks so much for the space, and we're looking forward to help more of you through the SBDC.
Fantastic. And I see Diana Hanash-Haggis here. She is the Student Success Manager for Innovation, Entrepreneurship, and Interdisciplinary Studies. I'm not sure if I've got it quite right. It's part of a new structure inside of USD that we're really excited about. And she is specifically here to help students with their career path and overall success. So if you're a student joining tonight from USD, please make sure you reach out to Diana. If you are a company that's looking for access to students and you're prepared to help a student have a great experience, she can help you connect with those young people who are going through our programs. So Diana, do you have anything you want to jump in and share here? Okay, we're going to cut her some slack because I put her on the spot. But if you, here she is. Sorry.
Hi.
Go ahead.
Yes. So it's a student professional development management team in the Student Success Center at the University of San Diego. So I get to work with all of our budding entrepreneurs, most of which happen to be in the MBA program. So please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions about that.
And if you don't know this, USD has one of the top rated MBA programs in the country. And we were just named number 24 for entrepreneurship. So if you want access to our students, Diana is a great person for you to connect with. And it's a part of her responsibility to really build these collaborations in the community. So she needs you as much as you need her. So thanks for jumping on again tonight. We appreciate having you here. All right, so applications are open. I would like to know if anybody has tried and gotten stuck anywhere in the application process. So if you've gotten into it and started through the process, I looked yesterday and I didn't see any applications yet, which is totally fine. The application is not easy, but remember, this is $200,000. So we're going to ask you all the questions that real investors ask, because we're going to hand all the answers to real investors. And then we're going to work with them starting in January. So I would love to know if you had any feedback on that application process, or if you got stuck anywhere along the way, please reach out to me in the chat, and then I'll try and help sort any issues out. So we don't own that piece of technology. So I'm always pretty careful about how it works. So if anything is hiccupy or broken, we want to get to it right away. If you're not sure how to get to it, you can go to the SDAngels.com. It's on the bottom of all the pages of the presentations that you'll see tonight. And then if you look across the top, there's an apply tab. If you go to the apply tab, this is from last week, so it's 7 days short of that. If you go to the apply tab, there's a blue button that says apply, and it works just like you think it will. It's going to take you to the page where you start the application for GUST. We can't see who's in the process. So that's one of the protections that GUST built in for all of you. And we won't know if your application went through or not until you pay the $149. So if you didn't get asked for your credit card information, you haven't finished the application, just so you know. And we don't have any way to check in or remind anybody or tell anybody where they're stuck. So you'll have to keep an eye on that and reach out to us if you have trouble. We can troubleshoot it, but we just don't have a way to reach into the back end of the system. All right, and there's no way we could do this without sponsorship. So very happy to have Next Work join us this year. Next Work is it's software consulting group that does all kinds of projects for entrepreneurs like you. So if you need a website or you need to develop an app, this is a resource for you, and they are looking to build their brand and be top of mind awareness for the San Diego market. And so it seems like a good fit to regularly put them up in front of all of you. So if you have questions or would like to connect with that team, I'm happy to help facilitate that if I can. But if you have any of those kinds of needs, we just ask that you take a look at them and see if they're a good fit for you. And of course, we couldn't do this without the partners. So when we've looked at entrepreneurs that have applied to the San Diego Angel Conference, the entrepreneurs that make it to the quarterfinals, the semifinals, and the finals, they all seem to be working with organizations somewhere. Maybe not this group, because we have this year applications from all over the country. But we hope that you are reaching out and taking advantage of some of the resources that are available to you here in San Diego. San Diego has a just fantastic number of different specialty resources for innovation, entrepreneurship, commercialization. So if you don't, if you haven't figured out someone to work with, please reach out and we can help you get connected to the right group. So more than 25 partners help put this event on every year. This is the most collegial group of people that I've ever worked with. It's kind of it's just a great and fun place. So please reach out. Many of these resources are free. There's a few of them that have some costs associated. These are all groups that are here to help you in your endeavors, and we really don't want you to do it alone. We want to be there to help support you as you figure out the hurdles that come up from time to time. Okay, the quick overview. We're now at session 4, which is pretty exciting, which puts us about a third of the way through. I'm going to tell you what happens next week. Next week, we have pitch deconstruction. So next week, it'll be cameras on, mics on, and everybody who shows up is going to get a chance to pitch. So pitch deconstruction does 2 things. We're going to have the lightning round, and I'm going to try and get every one of you to step up and pitch during that lightning round. We really hope that we'd be able to do this one in person, but just don't feel like it's quite safe for us to do that just yet. So It'll be via Zoom, but we'll do the 1 minute lightning round. Everybody pitches for 1 minute, does your best elevator pitch. And then we're gonna hear from a group of judges. We've got a great panel lined up for you. And then we're gonna, all of us vote for the ones we thought were the best. And we're gonna invite that handful of companies to come back and give their 3 minute pitch with slides. You can have support documents for the second one. You can't for the 1 minute lightning round. But when we do the pitch deconstruction, it's a great chance for you to get to see and get to know all the other companies that are playing in this environment, start to make some connections, and it's a super good practice. So, and there's not really a much better way to learn than actually jumping out there and doing it. So next week, pitch deconstruction. The application deadline for San Diego Angel Conference is December 15th. And then that's the set of tools. Your applications become the set of tools that we use to teach early stage angel investors about different industries and different stages and different deals as we go through and we evaluate and analyze the deals until we get down to a winner in March. That date's tentatively set for March the 26th. But we're still working on some venue things. And so we think it's March 26th, but we don't have that nailed down just yet. And then we've got a great group of people that help us put this together every year. So I've done angel conferences before. One of our speakers tonight, she and I worked on an angel conference some time ago. I think she's going to talk a little bit about that. But we've got this fantastic team of fund managers here in San Diego. And so this is the group that really pulls the program together for you. Chris Peters, who's not here tonight, who's the #2 for the Free Enterprise Institute. And then a group of, these are all accredited angel investors who jump in and help support you. I know Sumner is on the line. He's a co-fund manager for Fund 4. And if Sumner, if you can pull your camera up or turn your mic on, if you want to say hello or anything you'd like to share tonight, definitely would love for you to do that.
Hey everyone, it's a pleasure to be here as always, and look forward to meeting you guys and working with you and kind of seeing what we learned tonight together. So it's going to be an exciting time.
And that would be Sumner's forehead. Welcome, Sumner. So Sumner's always working all over the world. He's doing lots of great things with the company that he runs called Iron Forge, and he's been with us from the start. So he was relocating to San Diego when we were kicking off Fund 1 and has been with us from the beginning. So great to have Sumner stepping in as a co-fund manager, or a fund co-manager is probably the more appropriate way to say that. And glad to see the influence that he's going to bring this year. And with that, I want to hand things off to our first speaker. I'm really excited that Vidya Dinamani's here with us tonight. She's with Ad Astra Ventures. She also is she's a chief product officer. I've seen her speak before. She's fantastic. And I hope she's going to tell us a little bit about LashLive, because I don't know what that is, but I pulled it off of her LinkedIn this afternoon. With that, Vidya, I'll hand it off to you.
Thank you so much, Misty. I'm going to see if I can share my screen. Let's see if I can do that successfully. How's that working? It's good?
Yeah, it works fine. Looks
Perfect.
good.
Perfect. Thanks for having me. I'll tell you what, I'll tell you about Lash.Live in a second. So here I am, I'm going to talk about customer discovery and product market fit, two of my favorite things to talk about. It's what I specialize at Ad Astra as we think about our portfolio companies and investment. And I've learned sort of a very specific way to think about product market fit, which I'm happy to share with you. It's what we work with all our investment portfolio companies. What I would like to do, because I've got a couple of questions throughout the talk, which makes it a little bit interactive, but I use this little tool called Slido. For those of you who haven't used it, all you need to do, and this is just a test, this is just fun, and I'll tell you about Lash.Live as you're putting this together. Just hold up your phone, the QR code on your camera, it'll pop up a quick question, and then just answer it. Like, I just want to know what industry you're in. So just anything that you want to put in there, pop in there. If you don't have your phone with you, if the camera's not working for some reason or it doesn't scan, you can go to slido.com, you put in that little number, and then you can start entering it. So there you go. Someone's got, that's really funny. Was that a proper typo? There you go. They education or edufation. I don't even know how to say that. So while you're just practicing, because I'd love to get everyone doing this, again, there's a couple of questions throughout the talk. It's kind of fun when we get to see how other people react and feel. Lash.live is an online selling platform. It came from a founder. The CEO has a very successful business. She found that she was trying to move inventory, and she's got a retail space and online space, but she was trying to move inventory, and she ended up having a huge following. She's got tens of thousands of customers online. She went to Facebook and tried to sell this product online, and she found that within, it was like 15 minutes, she'd sold about $20,000 worth of goods. But then trying to figure out the logistics, trying to figure out how she would match what the person wanted through the little chat and connect it with the actual purchase. It was 3 days of pain and 3 people working on this just to sort all of that out. And there the idea was born. So fast forward a few years, I joined the team because it's such a compelling product. It solves such a big need. There are so many different people who want to be able to sell their products, their inventory quickly. They've got customers, they've got a following, but they don't want to have the infrastructure of a website. They don't want to, and Facebook Live and Instagram Live is just too hard to sell. So that's the niche, and that's what Lash.live is all about. And I've talked enough. Thank you so much. Look at that. Digital health, SaaS, education, software, healthcare, art and science. What a great mix of industries that are in the room. And I didn't even cover all of the rest. Now you know how to play. Next time there's a question, please jump straight in. Just a tiny bit about me, and just to give you the context of where a lot of the way that I think comes from. I think it's always interesting to understand, like, what's the background. I have a tech background and a business background. I spent about 10 years at Intuit working on the TurboTax product line. And then 5 years ago, formed my own coaching company. And we've now coached over 150 companies from startups all the way to Fortune 100. So really this, and what I'm going to talk to you about works. It works whether you're a small team, it works if it's industry agnostic, all the way up to you're $1 billion+ company. It's the same principles every single time. As Misty mentioned, 4 years ago, we formed Ad Astra Ventures, and we fund exclusively female founders, and we work very closely with them on education in terms of implicit bias, in order to understand how to get over the fact that so few females get funded. And we partner that, we marry that with an investment arm. So we actually teach as well as invest. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about the book later. A lot of what I'm talking about is in a book. So if you like what you hear, there's a way to learn more. So here's the way that I want to start. And it's always customer first. And this is the kind of customer feedback that we all really want. So just read some of these. Thank you for making this so simple. I'll never have a home without one. This has been a lifesaver. These are the kind of customer reviews that we all would love to have, right? Their products. So let's introduce you to the products that are behind these testimonials. And by the way, all those 3 testimonials directly from online reviews and testimonials. So the first is this little camera. This Wise camera, this is where it's thank you for making this so simple. Like, listen to what customers say. I love this Wise camera. It's the 6th one that I've purchased. I initially bought one. I fell in love. Anytime a customer has the word love in a review, you know it's golden. This little camera is really special because the competitor is things like Nest and pretty complex systems. This little unit sells for $20 and it does amazing things. So if you haven't heard about it, look it up. The second product is Ecobee. This is, I'll never have a home without one. This product came out of Canada. I think it's about 10 years at this point. The really special thing is that it's doubled its revenue every single year. It's growing like wildfire. And again, you can see that word love. I love this thermostat. I can tell you, I do not love mine. I will never talk about my thermostat that particular way. Third product, for those of you who are like, yep, that's all well and good for B2C, for consumer CPG products, I want to introduce you to Gusto, which is a B2B. This product is HR and payroll software. And this, read these testimonials. It's been a lifesaver. It's the best online payroll provider I've ever found. That one feels a little blasphemous for me to say, having spent so long at Intuit, but Gusto is amazing. We love the ease of Gusto. So all of these testimonials, right? It's like I've given you so many, it feels like this happens to all products, but it's not easy. This is why there's so many failures out there. And it's really hard to get this right. It's hard to get to customer delight. It's hard to get to that word love. And if you think I'm kidding, like really big companies with tons of resources get this completely wrong. And I'm just going to pick on a couple just for fun. This product is Google Glass. For those of you who remember it, who might have tried it on, I bought this for my team many years ago. We bought all the hype, right? All the marketing. We read the benefits. We're like, wow, this is going to do so much. We tried for 4 months to integrate this and make it work, and it didn't. With them, that many resources, that much technology behind it, this product was still a failure. And then I just got to pick on Windows, right? Because like one of the biggest companies in the world. If you remember Vista, and maybe this is just aging me, but this still gives me PTSD. This was so bad that the first review told you 12 features to switch off immediately. We don't want products like that. What we do want, all of us, is to build products that customers actually want. So how do you do that? So what I want to go through with you this evening is how to think about building better products, the path, the specific path to product market fit, and it works every single time. Touch upon customer discovery, which is the heart of what feeds into this path of product market fit. And then I'll just lightly touch on competition because I know my speaking partner is going to take you down in depth in that area. So let's bring back these 3 products, and I want to tell you a little bit more about them, right? And they have 3 things in common, which led to explosive growth, led to incredible customer testimonials, and led to revenue, like expanding revenue. So the first is that they got really clear on the problem that they were solving. This sounds trivial, but it's not. A lot of the time, this is where companies get stuck. When we come in and I coach companies, they find it really hard to express a specific customer problem to solve. I get a list of them. And when you're trying to solve many, many different problems, when you're all not speaking about the same problem, it becomes really hard to create a product that delights. So if we take Ecobee, that was a thermostat, they got really clear. The problem that they wanted to solve was to fix the hot and cold zones that happen even inside a room when you've got a thermostat going. They honed in, and I'm going to tell you more about these examples and how they thought about it. The second thing they have in common is they knew their customer inside and out. They had what we're going to call a psychographic profile of who that customer was, not a demographic, not a bunch of numbers, the actual person and what made them tick. For that, I want to tell you about Gusto. Now, this is the HR payroll software. They honed in on small business owners, the mom and pop shops, those owners who really had a tiny staff. They needed to have payroll and HR software, but they knew their employees. They knew them like this was family. What Gusto did was introduced a feature that has been one of the biggest delighters for that team. Every paycheck, the manager, the owner of the company can attach a little note to the paycheck. Now, in any big company, that's ridiculous, right? If you've ever worked for large companies, just imagine getting a note with your paycheck. Wouldn't happen. But in this really tiny, really close group where retention and loyalty are paramount, that went a long way. Along with your paycheck, you got a note saying, thank you for doing this particular thing. It was personal, it was connected. And that feature made this particular product stand out for this type of customer. The third thing, and this is a little bit more nuanced, is connecting the problem to the need, to what the customers actually want. This triangle of deriving what the actual need is really key, and it's attached closely to that customer that you pick. So for that, the third product. So this is the Wise camera. When they first launched, you could say that every single one of us, whether we live in a home, whether we live in an apartment, wherever we are, we all have security needs. So their potential audience is pretty much everyone, but they knew better than that. They honed in really specifically and thought about their first adopter. What they wanted was the kind of person who really liked data. They liked all the information. They wanted to be able to see exactly what was going on. They were geeks. So their first product provided this dashboard, provided all this data. So immediately they honed in on a specific target who really wanted and needed more information, and they built that product for that person. Often this is where a lot of people get stuck. You want to be able to paint the big picture, all of you in building companies. You want to build that roadmap. You want to show that it's a big idea. You want to show that you can eventually get to a significant amount of customers. But the way that you start, the way that you succeed is by getting uncomfortably narrow with the person that you're solving for and getting to know them really, really well. That's what gets you to product market fit. So let's talk more about that. And I'm going to pick on two pieces to go a little bit deeper. I want to tell you more about the problem statement, and I will tell you more about getting to understand the person you're solving for in a way that you can use it to make decisions in your day-to-day. So first, here's the reason why it's so important to focus on the problem. It's because every single one of us, I bet in this room, we're problem solvers. We kind of, you build companies, you like doing this, you like solutions, your brain works in a way that goes, I know how to solve that problem. So naturally, we talk and think in the language of, this is what we're going to work on, this is what we're going to build, this is what we're going to do. We think about features. When you do that, it really loses a sight of what problem you're solving. We fall in love with the solutions that we dream up. It's pretty normal, it's human. What is hard is to pull us right back and say, wait a second, yeah, I've got all these great ideas, but can I really articulate the problem or the challenge that I'm solving? Then what you want to do is to not just pick one problem, but to force yourself to broadly explore. Because a customer never has one problem, there are always many. And this idea of saying, okay, I'm going to take a step back, I'm going to list and think about all the different problems there are, and then I'm going to choose. And I'm going backwards, here we go. I'm going to choose, I'm going to converge on one particular problem that's the biggest problem, it's the highest need, and I'm going to solve that so well that no alternative will match. And so we come up with a definition that I know is a little bit wordy, but I wanted to share it with you because it really captures the fact that your problem expresses the difficulty that your customer has, but it doesn't talk about the solution at all. And you should try this. Try writing down your problem without talking about a feature, talking about a solution, or saying it's a lack of the fact that your solution doesn't exist. I want to bring this to life because I know this is, I kind of went from the theoretical, I want to bring it to life with this particular problem. And for that, this is my thermostat. And this is why I will never tell you that I love this thing. It's hideous. I don't know what half the things do. I don't know what half the numbers mean. I push it up and down and it sort of sets it for a certain amount of time, gets too hot, I push down, gets too cold, I push up, right? Not ideal. So let's pretend now together that we're going to build a better home thermostat, right? we've seen like, this is a pretty crappy product. I can do better. So perhaps we say something like this. We say, look, those home temperature systems, they're not easy to use. We're going to make it a lot better. We're going to make it have simple, bold numbers. So it's just really, really simple. We're going to make it look good, attractive. And hey, let's make it IoT. That's pretty sexy. We're going to allow the user to control this from their smartphones, their iPads, whatever. And so it's going to look good. It's going to be very unique. So a company, and I won't name them, they did just that, right? They pretty much took that directive and they built a product. So here it is. It looks simple. It's attractive. It's got a couple of numbers. It's IoT. And they launched it into the world. And here's what customers said. Oof, I love the idea, but it almost resets itself. This thing has ended up costing me money, a poorly thought out program. And nothing worse than waking up in the middle of the night in a sweat. These are not customer reviews you want. These are not the testimonials that make us happy. Instead, let's see what we could do and what went wrong here. If you remember what I said in terms of thinking about the solutions, they talked about this in the language of features. And so their team interpreted this and built features that looked like this. They didn't really think about the customer need. If we looked at this differently and we wanted to focus instead on the problems, here's what we would do. Very first step is that we've got to go learn and see how customers use their thermostats. What do they do day to day? What buttons are they pushing? What are they trying to solve? What's the need here? And then it allows us to come out with a set of different problems that we can specify. Here are just a few. Maybe they're talking about spending way too much on energy because their thermostat isn't working properly. Maybe they hate the defaults and they just can't figure out how to overcome them. Maybe they say things like, well, shouldn't it just be automatic in this day and age? Can't it just match the temperature? And others, we list a whole bunch of problems that we listen to, and then we narrow in, we pick one. And the problem that we end up picking is that it never feels like it's the right temperature in the house. No matter what I do, it's never right. So we hone in on a specific problem and a specific need. Now, if we write a problem statement, it reads like this. Homeowners have multiple cold and hot zones in their house. They find it annoying and confusing figuring out how to set temperatures and zones automatically. So they constantly change the temperature manually. Now, what you'll notice here is that there's a specific problem. We understand how the customer feels, which is really critical. And we understand why. We understand what's happening. There's no solutions in here. It's just expressed in the language of a problem. And when you do that, you build something like this. So when Ecobee put their product out, they understood that it was all about like getting the temperature right in the house. So there's a beautiful display on the wall, but what they also did, which was incredibly smart, is they create these tiny little devices, the little white devices, and you put them in different parts of your home. And what that does is it reads the temperature of where humans live, not the wall where the thermostat is placed, but actually where people are living. And that cross correlation and that communication allows for consistency, and it allows for the temperature actually be the same all the way through the home. What they end up having is the temperature is right for where they are. That's what happens when you solve a problem. So I promised you that there'll be these little kind of quizzes along the way. You've been listening to me talk about problems. I want you to think about what you're working on right now. I want you to think about the priorities that you have, and just give me a sense of, are they written in the sense of a problem, or are you working more in terms of solutions and features? So play along, be honest. I don't know who it is. I just want to get a sense of who's in the room. And I can tell you what normally happens, because we've polled more than 400 people at this point. So I can give you a quick little sense. Okay, so we've got people saying somewhat, great. that often is the case. You've got beginnings of a problem statement. You understand the problem at a certain level. It's getting deeper. And there's probably little bits of elements of solutions in there. So overwhelmingly, it's somewhat great. I love the fact that it's somewhat. I love the fact that you've kind of like gone on this path and you've started creating and recognizing that it's got to be in the language of a problem. What I'd love for you to do next is to get it into that yes column. So everything is written as a problem and everyone on your team understands what that problem is. Okay, there's 10, you can keep going. If you scan this, the poll will come up. Oh, cool. We've got a couple of people saying yes. That's awesome. That's really, really great. Okay, let's keep going. Let's go to the second, which is now the actionable persona. That's a mouthful. Persona gets a bad rap. People either like they love it, they build one, they never use it, or they're like, I hate that, I'm never doing it. So we're here to sort of dust off the persona and say, this is how you use it. And this is why you can do it yourself. You can do it for free. And it can be really useful in terms of how you think about building your business and your product. The reason it gets a bad rap is for things like this. And these are real personas. So let's just take a look at Brent for a second. He's a CEO. I'm not entirely sure that 100% male, 0% female. Okay. He's attended 14 events, but no other association events. I don't know what that means. I focus on what will drive improvements and profits in my company. Boy, you'd be hard pressed, right, to find a CEO who didn't say that. So really, what do we do with this? I mean, it's completely and utterly useless. Let's take a look at another one. I didn't have another one. The problem with personas like this is that when you have this generic persona or no persona at all, you treat every single customer exactly the same. And that's a problem because you need to think about personas very specifically in order to be able to understand those needs. So an actionable persona is an archetype. I'm going to break this down. And I'm going to show you an example. It represents a customer with their behaviors and their characteristics and what they actually care about and do. And you use it. The key here is that you pull it out. It's planted right on your desk. And you're constantly reminded of what your customer actually needs with every decision you make as the CEO. Now, if we bring back Gusto, I want to tell you that it's often okay to start with demographics. That's okay. Like having this sense of like, it's a woman who tends to be the small business owner. And there's a couple of things that we know about her. Fine to start here, but it's not sufficient. What we want you to get into is asking questions like, well, what does she care about? Like, what's this owner care about, this payroll manager? How does she make these decisions? What keeps her up at night? What does she wish for? When you start understanding these deeper psychographic needs, you start understanding what's really driving their decisions. And you end up with a persona that looks more like this. So first of all is to look at the picture. This isn't sort of some smiling, just photo that you pull off, some stock photo. You can tell immediately she's got paper piled up. This is a busy woman. Her head is down. She's working. Take a look at a couple of the things that she actually thinks. She's thinking about payroll. If it's not accurate, doesn't go out. I need to know what I'm doing. That's interesting. Just let me get started. That's an important need to understand as we think about like, how would we get her onboarded? How do we get her started in the product? I manage all the finances, so don't pigeonhole me. So you can start seeing that by understanding what she cares about and what's important, you really get a sense of who this woman is. Now, this B2B, it's not sufficient just to think about who does the payroll. We also have to think about who's making the purchase decision. In this case, it's the business owner. So now we have to think about two personas for B2B, the buyer and the user. And you need to understand both their needs because when you go into a company to pitch your product, you need to understand and distinguish what the buyer is looking for and how to appeal to her, as well as the user and the kind of features and the way the product is going to work. Two very different conversations. Don't mix them up. That's where sales fall apart, because you don't end up solving for either. So Carol is now, look at what she's in a car. This is a woman on the move. She's busy. She's doing sales. She's on a phone. This is you get a real sense of who Carol is. She needs to be up to date on the numbers because she's thinking about meeting commitments monthly. Listen to this next statement. My team is good, but I need to be sure the buck stops with me. So now we're getting a sense of oversight. Small business, what does she need a view into? How does she approve? What does that process chain look like? We've really got a sense of how Carol and Jennifer will work together. And what they have in common is that they're real people. They're based on conversations that you've had. They're based on you understanding so deeply what they care about and what attitudes drive them. You understand their emotions, what keeps them up at night, what they're worried about, like what they fear. This is all part of really understanding. And there's a little bit of demographics, but again, you can see product decisions don't come from demographics. They come from understanding the person. So an actionable persona actually facilitates trade-offs. And this is important because as a founder, all day long, you're making trade-offs. You've got limited resources, whether that's people, whether that's money, whether that's time where you put your focus. You have to be laser focused on where you want to be. Knowing who you're solving for allows you to make that trade-off with confidence. Okay, next question. There's only 3. This is the second one. I want you to think about your personas. If you don't have one, just put no. But think about, like, how much do you know about your customer? How much do you really understand what drives them? And if you've got a good sense of their needs and wants, somewhat is perfect. There you go. Okay, so it's kind of like we're even. Okay, no. You'll find that what I found, and this changes in terms of the size of the company. A lot of the time, startups, the areas and the positions that you're in, building a persona tends to be something that's put off. It tends to be thought of as a design artifact, and it can't be a priority. It feels like it's a lot of work. I'm here to tell you, you can put one together in like about 2 hours, a couple of conversations, and start putting it together. And I'm going to give you all the templates should you want to do this. I'm going to give you a link and you can download them and you can start doing it yourself. Making your persona actionable can be, along with a focus on the problem, can be the 2 things that make the complete change in the way that you drive your business. Okay, let's move to learning and starting to move into customer discovery. So I just want to touch upon a few points. The first is observation. You know, this comes all the way back. I think I told you I spent a lot of time into it. We used to have this program called Follow Me Home. Yep, sounds totally creepy, but we did that. We did it with permission, but we wanted to watch what people actually did in their homes. Not what they said they did, not what they put in a survey, not what they told you in a focus group, but actually in their environment. Now, in the last 1.5 years, we've spent a lot of time helping teams turn an in-person observation into a virtual one. It's really easy to do. All of us have phones, all of us have cameras. Just ask your customer, can you show me around your desk? If you're working on a product for their garden, ask them to take you for a walk. I haven't found yet an instance why you can't virtually get an understanding just by spending a little bit of time with them, asking them to take pictures, asking them to do screen shares, asking them to just be a fly on the wall, and can you just observe how they work? You'll be surprised by how much people are willing and ready to let you into their homes and their offices. So find a way to actually observe behavior and not just hear, because a lot of people will give you aspirational behavior. We all want to feel, and we all feel like we need to be a little bit better. So if you ask us, do we do things like budgets? Do we set our finances? How healthy are we? We're going to tell you things that are a little bit aspirational. We're too embarrassed to admit the truth. If you just take and I observe what you're doing, you're going to pick up so many clues in the way that they talk, the way they dress, the way they set up their desk. All of these things you'll pick up as visual clues. So we talked about virtual interviews. We talked about things like video surveys where they can tape, they can record, and then like literally real-time online observations, super powerful. The next step is to empathize. We want you to put yourself in your customer's shoes. We want you to feel their pain. The only way you're going to do that is if you put real people behind stock photos. When we talk about Jennifer and Carol, we've got people in mind, conversations that we had. They turn from a cardboard cutout into a real person with real needs that you are passionate for solving for. So empathy it happens when you connect to a real person. The last thing I want to tell you is we really want you to think about individualizing needs. If you're thinking, I've got to solve for a lot of different customers, that's fine. What I want you to do, however, is to still think about each different person or persona as having separate needs. So when you actually lay them all out, you'll understand where the similarities are, you'll understand where the differences are, and you'll understand who has the specific and most important needs that you can go after. Don't treat all your customers the same. Keep them separate. Think about their needs individually. Once you've done that, you can make priority calls. And the way we like to do this is just really think about visually adding your priorities, putting them up there, segmenting them into different customer sets, and figuring out where you want to spend your energy, your resources, your time, your people. Learning from customers. Okay, so learning from the competition. The last thing I'll say on this one is you can do a lot to learn from your competition by doing research that way. You can absolutely ask about competitive products. You can do research saying, what do you think about X, Y, and Z product in these virtual interviews? It doesn't just have to come from market research. You don't have to pretend. I'm not saying in any way to pretend you're from the competition. It doesn't stop you actually asking customers of a certain product, why they like it, where are the gaps, what's the difference. I've had lots and lots of instances where I put up a screener, I'll have people say the types of different products that they use, and I'll specifically go to those competitor products to understand and learn what's going on. You can learn a lot by customers that are really loyal to those products and why they'll never shift, and you can learn a lot by what they hate. Some of the stuff you can pick up in online reviews, you can pick up in testimonials, but follow through, talk to people who are not just your customers, but talk to your competition's customers as well. This is the last question, and then we'll wrap up and open it up for any questions. I want to know when the last time you talked to a customer. If you don't have customers yet, if you're still in early stages, make that a prospect, make it a potential customer. But did you talk to them in the last week as you build your products? In the last month? Or has it been a while since you actually talked to a customer because you're so heads down building your products? Thank you. Lots of honesty in this room. I appreciate it. The ones that you've seen this week, like kudos. Please keep that. Please keep that as you grow your companies, as you get bigger, as you get more successful. Make it part of at least every 2 weeks, if not weekly, that you reach out and you talk to a customer. Even when you're wildly successful, stay connected to your customer. Okay, so we've got about 60% this week. That's fabulous. And those of you 3 months ago, let this just be a little nudge. to maybe think about like who can you reach out to and who can you connect with to get that customer inspiration. So to wrap up this then, so product market fit, like what is that? So it's thinking about like learning from your customers and learning from your competition. It's putting together a specific problem and a specific persona and deriving needs for that combination. Remember that triangle, put those three things together. When you've done that and you learn, you research, you iterate, you go out there with prototypes, you test, you hone in on that specific need, you listen for delight, and you figure out where you can absolutely meet that need. When you get these things together, that's how you achieve product market fit. So if you like some of this stuff, it's in this book. You can get it on Amazon. And I promised you all the templates. We have templates for needs, we have templates for persona, and we have templates for the problem statement, the conversion problem statement. You can go to productgroundwork.com and you can get all of those right there. And I encourage you, please do, please. And I think Misty will definitely share this link with you later. So with that, I'm going to stop my share and just open it up for questions.
I think Teresa's got one to start us off too, while others think of some. Teresa, do you want to vocalize yours? I know you put it in the chat as well.
Yeah, I just wanted to know how much is enough as far as being able to get those testimonials, customer reviews, and the like.
That's a great question.
How do you know when you've reached enough?
Yeah, no, that's a terrific question. So I'm going to give you two answers. One is it never ends. You're constantly listening and learning to customers. What you only need, though, is about 5 to 7 customers to talk to get directional information. And it's been proven. There's been lots of studies from Nielsen to other places where it proves that at about 5 to 6 conversations, you tend to get to that 80-20. You tend to get directional information that says another conversation, another interview is not really going to make that much difference. So it's really surprising, right, that 5 to 7 is enough. When you set up your question carefully, when you're testing a prototype or a concept and you are clear with the hypothesis that you're trying to test, that small number is sufficient for you to understand what trade-off or what decision you need to make. So I would say, as a rule of thumb, be talking to 5 to 7 customers every couple of weeks. And so put that into your operating plan.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Julie had a question next.
Yes, I was wondering, we're building a platform as a service type of product, and we have not gotten that granular on the customer, but we understand the potential of the market. So if you need to raise money before you have all of that done, how do you address that?
Okay, so platform as a service, it's complex because what you're selling is both to, like, from an API perspective into development or into some sort of internal product that is going to use your platform, and then that has external customers. So you have to understand that ecosystem. And so what I would do is I'd pick a specific vertical. So instead of you trying to understand all the different APIs and all the different uses and all the different customers that you would serve, pick a slice, prove that out in terms of a prototype, and then show how this pattern will be repeated across all the different other parts that will use your platform as a service. Once you've done that, as an investor, you look for, how do they know? Do they have the proof points in the data? And do I believe that they can repeat this across the different areas that they are talking about? So that's all you need. It's really hard for you to prove it across everything. It requires a lot of money. And at early stages, what you're doing is trying to get enough to prove out your concept. So pick the one that's most likely, pick the area that's got the biggest need, the ones that are like, can't wait for your product to come out, can't wait for that API, and you understand their customer so well that you understand how you're going to set up your platform in order for them to serve their customer. Once you understand that connection and that alignment, you can absolutely have the story about how you're going to expand and grow and get to the roadmap that allows you to become this more ubiquitous platform as a service.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can I be included in that testimony? If I'm the user, I'm building the product around myself, knowing that for example, I'm in a wheelchair and I'm marketing to individuals that would use this product and through my own personal experience. So would my testimony count?
No, I think that you have incredible empathy for your customer because you understand what they're going through. What we want to be careful about is that as much empathy as you have, and a lot of the time it makes sense. We build products when we see a clear need. A lot of the time when we experience it, that's when we get the aha moment. Like there's nothing else out there. I see a way to solve this problem and I understand the problem really well. It's even more important in your case to go out and to talk to others, because what you don't want to do is to make this product about solving your specific need, because you're not going to pay for your own product. What we want to get to is customers who are willing to pay. And in order to do that, you need to be able to test that at some point, that willingness to pay, which means you've got to go out and talk about what their biggest needs are, which may not necessarily be the ones that you prioritized first. So when you can go out and when you can test that, test your thinking, be really diligent about having maybe a small advisory group. You don't need to go get new customers every single time. You can pick 5 to 7 people who don't necessarily always agree with you, but are exactly the kind of customer, and they are the ones that will pay. Then that group can be a small advisory that you can keep going back to.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
I mentioned there might be other questions. Feel free to chat them or, chat your name and say, hey, I want to go next.
But 1,000 thanks. Yeah, I always just love to have you. I learn a ton every time you're here. And I'm grateful that we end up getting a recording this week so that we can continue to share that with people who couldn't make it tonight. So I hope you'll put together your icons and help me thank Vidya for being here tonight. She's going to stay on and be back for a Q&A session in the breakouts later too. So continue working up those questions, and we will be back with you soon. We are going to take a quick break. So we get like 2-3 minutes for the break. We're going to come back at 6:33. And so I'll leave this with you, and then I'll introduce our second speaker, Captain Cleland. See you in 3.
All right.
All right, I've got 6:33, the taskmaster these days, so. Welcome back.
Wow, that was quick.
It is quick. We do it fast. We learned this lesson the hard way from last year. We did 3-hour sessions with no breaks on Zoom with a single speaker. And those were pretty difficult. I see some people laughing. Might have been here with us last year. Those. So our next speaker is Catherine Cleland. I always want to call her Dr. Catherine Cleland because she's always such a wealth of information, and I always struggle a little bit not to do that. I've known Catherine for almost 20 years. She was originally assigned to my board by an elected official when we were both working in Oregon almost 2 decades ago. So fantastic marketing strategist. She was the first person who talked about marketing, who said marketing is all about math. That was the first time I'd heard that phrase some years ago, and she's been educating me ever since. So for over 20 years, I know her comments tonight are going to be packed full of things. She does some consulting for the Brink for Rachel, a little bit here and there, maybe not as much these days because she's got a pretty full plate of things, but we occasionally get access to her for training and some other stuff. So it's my great pleasure to welcome Catherine Cleland tonight. And Catherine, I'll hand it over to you.
Great. I'm glad to be here, everybody. I have loved working with, now it's probably thousands of entrepreneurs, founders, and small businesses on articulating their business plans and taking a deep dive into understanding their customer, and then how understanding that customer, the market environment, translates into financial projections that make investors get excited. And so those are the pieces that I want to start helping pull together for the conversation today. So I am 100% aligned with Vidya that the most important piece of the whole puzzle is not your product, not your technology, not your patent, it's the customer. Everything has to be driven from the customer focus and the customer perspective. But I'm going to take a little jump here into, give me 1 second to get all my screen share set up because we've got some. Okay, are we seeing my screen now? Great. Oh, but not the first one. There we go. So the topic I was asked to talk about today is competition and what it tells investors about the present and the future, but I'm going to put that in the context of the pitch you're going to need to be doing and the business plan that needs to underlie the pitch that you're going to be doing. So competition and competitive analysis is in support of that overall view. Misty said, I run my own marketing consulting company called Cleland Marketing. Agenda. So as we look at marketing competitive analysis, I'm going to start with the fundamentals of TAM, SAM, SOM. And I hope all of you are learning about how to understand your total available market, your segment addressable market, and your segment, the market, the part you can get, which is really your marketing forecast. And so I think of these as your market size, your segment size, and your marketing forecast model. And understanding what you can get in terms of market share is essential for that market forecast model. So what we're going to do is dive deep into competitive analysis from the customer point of view, the investor point of view. It's got an extra Y, sorry about that. And the operational understanding that you as the founder can get from doing competitive analysis, because it's going to be all about building that financial view that's going to excite your investors and reduce the risk of your operation. As you're working at an early stage, you're trying to identify the impact of your invention or innovation. Financially, the market size, the analysis in human terms, what the customer profile is, or the persona, as Vidya shared with us, and what your value proposition is, what your unique selling idea is to meet those customer needs, how disruptive you're going to be to your marketplace, how flexible and how much longevity your platform or your idea may have. As Julie mentioned, she's got a platform that's got both flexibility and longevity, and then some of the risk. And we're going to see how competitive analysis helps us address many of these. Ultimately, you as a founder have to be in a mindset that it's worth doing all of this work for several reasons. But the biggest one is right now, as you're looking to move into a pitch phase of your business plan, it's your own confidence and understanding so that as you get investor questions, you have a thorough and broad view of the customer, the market, and where you fit into the universe, translated to the math that Misty mentioned. And so when I talk about math, I'm really talking about modeling assumptions. Modeling assumptions. So any financial model is truly that. It's a set of assumptions that you're making about the size of the market, the amount customers will buy, how much they will pay, and how much you can get from competitors. So I'm sorry, my dog won't stop barking, and I don't have anybody else here to shut him up. So I don't know what to do about that. Let me know.
You know what? Thank you for just having it happen, because like we've all got things going on, and this is part of our pandemic response. We just get to be in with each other. So we'll be patient with your puppy.
Okay, I'm going to throw him a treat, and we'll see if he quiets down. So the financial market analysis. Vidya talked a little bit about understanding of your customer persona. And as you group personas into like profiles, you have segments. And so the word segment is often one that can be problematic for founders. And it really is just grouping people with like or homogeneous needs who will buy based on similar criteria. And we're going to look at segments, and then different segments of the market will have different competitors for your solution as you get deeper into understanding their personas. All about winning a piece of that market share and how to reach those customers through your potential partners and your distribution channels. We dig deep into the competition. It's really thinking about what alternatives your customers will choose if not your product solution, and what benchmarks and substitutes your investors perceive can beat you out. Because investors are always going to be looking for where are the holes in your business plan and your product market strategy, and where can you be beaten. But I really want you to be able to get to, by the time you're pitching in December, the forecast scenario that gives you a realistic revenue and profit estimate and the risk of the key variables that can change that. You also need to speak in your pitch about disruption. What are the inefficiencies and imbalances in the current market, and how your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats address that. And then the flexibility and longevity. So, poll question number 1. Do you know who your competitors are? And so, Mansi, you've got a polling system here in Zoom. There we go. While you answer that poll, I'm going to go let the dog out. Just 1 second. Nobody wants to take the poll.
Oh no, people are taking, I just
We're
started
taking it. We can flash results in a second. Actually, 68% of people have responded.
Oh, excellent. Excellent. It's not real time like Vidya's fancy technology. I thought that was pretty impressive, Vidya. Excellent. Okay, you know who your competitors are. Let's see if you really do. Before we dive into that, TAM, SAM, and SOM are acronyms that represent the different subsets of a market. TAM is your total available market. It's how you define your universe. Your serviceable available market is that piece or segment of the total market targeted by your products and services that's within your geographic or other reach. And your serviceable attainable market is that portion of the SAM that you can capture versus the competition or alternatives. You need to be able to articulate your TAM, your SAM, and your SOM to your investors as part of your pitch. And it takes a lot of work to be able to do that. And my slide, whoop. Okay, so another way to look at it, the universe you're going to play in, the total available market is the tightest definition that encompasses your plan. And getting that right is going to be part of your conversations with your investors as you go forward. Your available market is looking at those homogeneous groups with like buying processes and criteria that you can satisfy. This is where your personas really help, and you're going to have multiple groups potentially within that available market. But getting to that product market or product customer match is really absolutely essential. Who really needs and wants your solution? And then the obtainable market is with your resources. How much share can you get? So at what price point, with what distribution channels, with your go-to-market strategy, how is that going to translate into the obtainable market share? We hear way too often as investors that all I need to do is get 1% of a $3 billion market and we'll have met our goals. And you, the investor, should invest in me because 1% of the $1 billion market is going to be a piece of cake to get. If you're talking about $1 billion or more market, you have not done sufficient work in understanding your total available market and your service available market. You need to define it much more tightly before you can address what share of the market you're going to get. Your SAM is based on your business plan. What percent of this market can you address with your minimum viable product and your planned product and delivery mode? So this is a lot of a different perspective on what Vidya was talking about, is how does your feature set, your value proposition hit the customer and their underserved needs? And understanding that intersection creates your opportunity. So next question is, do you know what your customer thinks the best alternatives to your product and service are? Uh-oh, what am I sharing at this point? I have no idea. Something just changed. Oh, there we go. Now, do you guys see the full poll question on the screen? Okay, great.
We have about 40% of them answered, 48 now.
Every time I try to pull the poll over, it is messing up what I'm sharing. Interesting. Okay, there we go. So I just won't pull the poll over. I presume it's showing up for everybody else as a pop-up. Yeah, Misty's nodding. Okay, great. Okay, do you know what your customers think the best alternatives to your product service are? 52% said yes, 48% no. And then have you asked them? Exactly. So this is part of getting deep in those conversations with your customers. And to re-emphasize Vidya's estimate, it can be as few as 5 customers, especially if you're doing a business-to-business play that can give you these insights. But if you have 5 segments, 5 different groups, you want 5 in each group, not 1 in each group. So then you're up to 25 customers. If you've got different groups you're trying to test your idea against, and you think they differ on some key elements that they need or want. And so part of what you're doing is asking those customers not only what their unmet needs are, but ask them what are their alternatives. If you don't get this, what will you do? What are your other choices? And have them help you define whether your competitive set is actually a who. Did you notice in the first question I asked who your competitor is? And did you notice in the second question I add what is the best alternative? Oftentimes, especially if you're disruptive, if you've got something truly novel, you don't have a who, you don't have a specific defined existing entrenched competitor, but it's much more what are the other choices the customers would make if they don't know about or have access to what you're offering. So add that to your customer interview and make sure as you develop a customer panel, you're digging deeply into what are the alternatives to the product and service. And an insight I'll give you here based on years worth of work on the go-to-market strategy, which is at the far end when you're ready to launch. As you take notes in these customer interviews, make very specific notes of your customer's language, what vocabulary they use and what those word choices are, because those are going to help you when you have to do marketing messaging and you have to do keyword work as you develop your website, your search engine optimization, and a lot of the pieces of your go-to-market are vocabulary based. So the more you can capture early on in your customer interviews and conversations, their vocabulary, the more insight you'll have into how they're going to look for your solution when they were going to be looking for alternatives or solutions. So capture that information as you do those questions. Let's see if I can get my slide to advance. So as you talk to your customer, let's talk about the total addressable market for my unique high-end delicious dessert. Is the dessert market or the cookie market? So I've got a total of addressable market of the world of desserts. Again, it's one of those billion-dollar markets, way too big. I just need a 0.5% share of the worldwide cookie market, and I'm going to be great. Well, that's not where I'm going to be because I use extremely premium ingredients. Everything I do is organic. Each one is custom designed, etc. So my addressable market may just be the super premium chocolate chip cookie buyers. And so I'm just looking for people who buy on the internet, are willing to buy cookies and have them shipped. Totally different market. Well, when I'm looking at that market and I'm trying to address it and come up with what my forecast is, how big I can grow, what this opportunity truly is, who is my competition? Is it just the internet providers of high-end retail chocolate chip cookies? Is it people who sell truffles online? Is it baking my own, buying some from a local baker? Your whole perspective on what your market might be is going to depend in part of this other lens of what is that substitute? What is the alternative from the customer's point of view? And then given that, what is my realistic share either of units, numbers of cookies or boxes of cookies sold, or is it my share of their budget on premium desserts? So how I go about estimating my opportunity depends a great deal on what the mindset I have and the insight I have into my customer and how I define the opportunity. Is it a share of a cookie market? Would Mrs. Fields have gone into the cookie market if it was just the share of a cookie market? Or is it a percent of a budget on taking care of myself, self-care and treats? And you think about it quite differently if you change that perspective by asking your customers, what is their decision-making process? What do they think of as they're thinking through this? Another example on this, and I won't go into too much detail, is Zappos. When they decided to go into the online shoe market, they saw that there was a $40 billion shoe market for shoes, but it wasn't online. And so they said, well, the online shoe buyers could be up to 5% of that $40 billion market. And so as they went after developing this online shoe megastore, did they come up with a market share of what percent of purchases or what percent of buyers? When you talk to somebody who is a shoe buyer and buys multiple pairs of shoes a year, are they going to buy all of them online, or are they going to just buy some shoes online, most of their shoes in a shoe store? Are they just going to buy repeat shoe purchases when they know the size and fit online? It's going to depend on the emotional and motivational factors as to why that person would consider buying shoes online. If you do the Wayback Machine back to 15 years ago, before Zappos was a huge presence and we were all buying everything online. So that's the lens I want you to think about as you think about competition and think about the customer. So how do we start learning about the competition other than talking to our customers, which is the place you're going to start? We're going to look at industry profiles. We can look at market research report. We can look at news articles, and we can look up industry associations. There are paid industry profiles. I'm sure any of you who have done any kind of competitive work so far have found the $3,000 to $20,000 research reports that they'd like you to pay an analyst for at Forrester Research or one of these other research companies. And occasionally it's worthwhile to do that. But most of the time I find working with my founding clients that what we look for is the free financial investor analysis. We look at financial disclosures. We look at business and trade journals. We look at press releases, and we look at the press releases for those paid industry profiles. And the data that I look for as I read through the reams of information you can find by searching by competitor name, by customer name, by industry, I look for customer descriptions, I look for strategy, I look for units, I look for revenue, and I look for growth rates. So I'm trying to extract very specific information. So it is the customer consideration set. It's harder if you're innovative. So creating a short list of competitors is something you can do, and I suggest you do it in something like a Google Sheet so you can add to it and subtract from it as you get more and more information, and you can sort your competitors into different piles. So if I'm going to be competing in the two-door automatic sports car market, so I'm going to be a new competitor coming into this automatic sports car, as opposed to manual sports car. My direct competitors may be Tesla, Porsche, BMW, Nissan, Corvette, and Mustang. But I've also got indirect competitors in manual sports cars, four-door sports cars, and in other high-end luxury investments, including motorcycles, speedboats, second homes, and major vacations. So if somebody's looking at buying a very high-end two-door automatic sports car, I'm looking at, from the customer standpoint, they've got a budget to spend. Presumably, this isn't usually a primary car, so we've got more indirect competition than we might otherwise think of. And when we look at our direct competition and talk to our customers, there may be some technology slices. There might be people who are diehard electric onlys, which may include me or exclude me, but there may be folks who would consider electric or hybrid, or it could be that I'm looking at somebody who is technology agnostic and they're just looking for the coolest thing that there is out there, and it's all about cachet. So that's where understanding this emotional profile, the psychographics of your target customer, is going to help you take this huge realm that you can look at and break it down into a shorter list of competitors. As you do this, I find it's extremely helpful to break down my competitive notes. I actually create a digital notebook, and I create a section for financial. I create a section for customers and markets, and I create a section for operational. And as I read information that's relevant, I'll drag and drop it into my notebook, into the correct section. So however you collect and sort your data, you can do it in the way that works for you. But as you look for that financial information, it's revenues, ratios, growth, investment, benchmarks on time to break even, investment rounds, and valuations. That's your investors are going to be all over that data. And so the more you have done your homework and understand for both competitors in your space who have gone through the venture startup and benchmarks in your space who have gone through the venture startup, that information, you'll be able to answer your investors' questions. Markets, market growth, product service, performance features, product lines, line extensions, pricing, and channels from a customer and markets. Anything I can glean about those. For example, for Tesla, if we're benchmarking Tesla as a competitor, their biggest innovation, and where if you read about Elon Musk and what he talks about, is that he will always sell direct to the consumer. He does not want to have or support any kind of dealer network, whether it's for his cars, whether it's for his roofs, or whether it's for his battery power backups for home solar alternative energy systems. He wants to disintermediate and go straight to the customer. And so understanding that about Tesla, and if they're going to be one of your competitors, is really important, because that creates both opportunities and threats for you. It's also good to have a place to put down the operational information. You probably don't need it now, but as you look at your ramping up your production line and going to market, any tidbits you find about how they've designed their products, what their manufacturing, distribution, suppliers, supply chain structure, and cost of goods sold are, you're going to be a whole lot smarter and a whole lot more efficient by having borrowed the brilliance and knowing why you're different and how you're different. So as we look at the classic competitive analysis, and I look at the pitches, I've looked at thousands of pitches. One of the most useful ones, if you're looking at a 10-slide pitch to talk about this competitive analysis, is to have one of these competitive quadrant slides. And so I'm showing this to you. It's called competitive quadrant. It's written there in green. And you're looking for dimensions that help you and your investors understand how you're different on key elements from your competition. And so this Gleamer one has taken the two axes of convenience and expense and said, these are very important dimensions for my target customer. I've done my customer interviews, and what I have found is that there is a missing opportunity in the more convenient, less expensive quadrant. And so then I'm going to articulate in my pitch why I, as Gleamer, am more convenient and less expensive than all of the other competitors, and why they fit where they fit in the quadrant. So it's just a framework to talk about important customer dimensions and why you're different on those important customer dimensions. And those dimensions can be growth, they can be types of customers, they can be features, it can be price. It really depends on what gives you and your investors the greatest insight. So working with some of these different maps on competitive quadrant is really valuable practice as you go into your pitch, what's it called next week, Nikki, your pitch review? Another one that you can do that's very common, very helpful for investors, that summarizes a lot of information that you've gleaned. So you're going to have pages and pages and pages in your digital notebook about your competitors, is just one of these competitive landscape where you have key dimensions that customers have told you is important to them. And then you have yourself versus other competitors and how well you rate. And of course, you're always going to be the best. You're going to be the one that checks all the check boxes down there on the green on the right, but you're going to be using this to tell your story. And what's important is what you've chosen in these boxes on the left and which competitors you think you compete against based on your customer understanding. So again, this is getting back to the customer insight and the competitive analysis. Next question. We've talked all about customers now and competitive analysis from the customer, how to pitch it to investors. Do you know who your potential investors think your competitor and benchmark companies are? And have you asked them? Okay, real opportunity here. Don't we have an opportunity? So 36% think they know who their potential investors think their competitors and benchmark companies are, but 64% don't, and you haven't asked them yet. So there's a real opportunity, because as you talk to different investors, they're going to make assumptions based on who you've told them your market is and your customer is and your product solution is, as to who your competitors might be. Ask them that information. Ask them what assumptions they're jumping to, and then either prove or disprove that assumption. So if you talk to them once and they say, I think your competitor is Pinterest, you can either on the spot say, oh, heck no, we're not competing with Pinterest because we do this and we speak to a different customer and we do something else. Or you go back and do some research and you say, I want to come back to you on that. I'll be back in 2 weeks and let's talk about whether our competitor is Pinterest or whether it's Instagram or whether it's something else entirely and completely different. But the assumptions that they make is important for you to know, because as you do your market analysis, as you do your competitive analysis and get to a share of market and talk about how you're going to achieve that share of market, if you have a different competitive set in mind than your investor does, you're not going to match, and they're not going to believe and buy into what you say your potential opportunity is. And so it's all got to be grounded back in that customer, but you need to align with your investors. And it could be your choice of investors and the ones who choose to invest in your innovation and your idea and your team are the ones who see the world the way you do. So the more you can solicit how they're seeing the world and the more you can guide them to the way you see the world of the market opportunity, the better off you'll be. So when we look at competitor information sources from a financial perspective, you and your investors start to agree on who your competitive set might be. They can help you get the data you need, because often they have access to resources you may not, such as Crunchbase and PitchBook. So they're paid services that investors sometimes have. And if they're interested in working with you and they say, I think you look a lot like company XYZ, either as a benchmark, or I think you're going to compete with company ABC as a competitor, they can pull profiles. And I'll show you what some of these profile looks like. But you want to look at annual reports and financial filings. You want to look at articles in business and trade journals. You want to look at LinkedIn information about the company, PitchBook, Crunchbase. Dun & Bradstreet is amazing. And even Kickstarter has remarkable financial and competitive profiles on people who have tried to launch in your exact market at some time in the past. I swear, every one of you, I mean, I saw all your different industries as Vidya started out. I swear Kickstarter has had a startup in your industry sometime in the past 7 years. So go look, go find them and find out who they are. So I am going to jump out here of this, and I am hoping you are seeing Dun & Bradstreet. Do people see Dun & Bradstreet? Yep. Okay, Misty's nodding yes. So if you go and do a Dun & Bradstreet on an existing company that is publicly available, they will give you the basic profile for free. You have to pay for this detailed company profile button. Just ignore that for now. We don't have to pay for things that we don't want to. Gives us a lot of good information, but one of the things I find on public information that it pulls for me that makes it very accessible is some of the financial information that I would otherwise have to go to their annual report to get. And I also look at who they think the competitors are. And so for Tesla, this is pretty obvious. It's Ford, Toyota, and General Motors. But if I was looking at a more niche company in, you know, genome sequencing, or if I was looking at somebody who was doing medical devices, I'm going to see a much tighter look. And that's where I'm going to start. Because if I don't have the Dun & Bradstreet companies on my competitor list, but Dun & Bradstreet has them as competitors, I need to add them. And they will also give you the profile of all of the related companies. So Tesla, it turns out, is not one company. It's 388 related family companies, with 160 of those being subsidiaries or branches. And I can get a feel for what some of those subsidiaries are. So going into just Dun & Bradstreet, and it's just dnb.com business directory, and typing in company names is a great place to start. The next place I go is to the either Wikipedia or to the Directory of Business and Industry Associations. So this is on my slide, and it's called Cause IQ. Can people see that here, Cause IQ? I'll go up to the top so you can see that logo. Misty, nod when you see the logo. Okay, Misty sees the logo. This is a directory of directories. It has 56,000 industry association directories. You can see it here, 56,000. And if I add a filter or I go to a keyword, I can put in medical device, and it will give me all of the industry associations that are related to medical devices. So I can go to the Medical Device Manufacturers Association, and I can look at information about them. But what I'm most interested in is going to their website and look at what information they have for publications. Because often in an industry association, they will have an industry outlook publication that talks about how fast the industry. Whoa! Excuse me, everybody. I got to do something here. We'll see if I have a house left when they're done. Okay, they will have, as I was showing you, under industry resources, they will often have articles and publications, which I find are extremely helpful for getting free information. And what I search for is the term outlook or forecast, because that's when I see the specific resources that can give me information about what's happening in different markets. So that's industry associations and where I would go to look for that kind of information. The next place I go to annual reports. So I have open here for you all Tesla's annual report. Form 10K, Securities and Exchange Commission, they are required as a public company to file annually and quarterly information. And the most important information, and we'll go through this, I've got a slide on this as well, but I know I'm running out of time. Misty, I always have too much to do, right? So much to tell you guys. I look at how they describe their customers and markets. And that's usually an item 1 under business. They have segment information, and then they have their products and services. And all of the automobile products and services are pretty self-explanatory. But when we get into their energy generation and storage, I have a client who wants to compete with their battery, their home-based solar battery systems. And so getting into their solar energy systems and their battery and powertrain technology gives us really good understanding about the unique advantages of electric powertrain, what's proprietary, and how they see themselves as being different in self-driving, vehicle control, etc. And here's energy storage products. So they often have really good definitional information, but the next information that I go to is going to be here on page 12. And it is, I think it's on page 12, intellectual property. Not on page 12. Here's competition. There it is. Page 12, they articulate who their competition is and what the risks are. So the worldwide auto is highly competitive. It's going to become more competitive. Tesla has been more vague than any other company I've ever seen fill out the risks of competition on their annual report, but it's a great source of information. So I wanted to highly recommend that for any of you who have competitors who are in the public realm. So that was Dun & Bradstreet annual reports. This is what PitchBook looks like. So this was Airbnb's book. And what PitchBook gives you is not only company information, but if you can get it, it has revenues, ratios, and it has early startup information of valuations, investment rounds, and time to break even. And your investors have access to this. And if you get a friendly investor, they may give you access to this for some of your competitors. That way, you'll find out if you're saying your time to break even is only 12 months or 15 months, and most of your benchmarks took 3 to 5 years. You've got a disconnect there, and you need to understand what is happening. And so getting an investor who has access to PitchBook is really valuable. And we'll ask some of our investors who are here on the call, if they've got access to PitchBook, how often they might make that available to a company they're interested in. And I showed you read the annual and quarterly reports, the Tesla example. Deloitte has a financial industry analysis on lots of major industries that's available for free for investors. So this is the renewable energy outlook. So for my client who is working on those home battery systems, this renewable energy outlook was extremely valuable, but based on understanding how they segmented the market and who the competitors were. Crunchbase has a free and then it has a pro. If you're ready to do your research, take that pro free for 30 days. Get everything downloaded in those 30 days and then cancel your subscription. Can do. There's your PitchBook. Joining the relevant industry association, I showed you the cause IQ. The UCSD library is open to the public. SBDC has industry analysis available through an SBDC advisor. There's a library database called IBIS World that has so much competitive industry analysis and profiles. BCC Research has speculative assessments of trends and opportunities written by analysts with deep dives into supply chain and how industries are structured. And then as you Do this analysis for your financial and your customer. Look for the operational insights. Keep notes about products, manufacturing, distribution and channel, supplier, supply chain. And here's the example of Tesla that I mentioned earlier about their direct distribution model. Just keeping that and noting that is valuable. Examples of magazines that have great industry analysis: Bloomberg's Business Week, The Economist, Chemical and Engineering News, Modern Healthcare, depending on your segment. There's some great insights in all of these. I always recommend that if you can, draw the business or the industry. Take out a pad of paper or some Post-it notes and start putting together all of the competitors, the customers, and then follow the money through it. And here's some examples of some valuable industry structure drawings that have helped different clients at different times. SWOT, do a SWOT, model things. But this is where I want to take you at the end, is you're pitching. You've got a room with investors, even if it's a Zoom room, you've got a room with investors, and you want to leave the room with impact as to why I, the investor, the listener, should believe your story. So you're building a credible story and tying it to your planning. Your total available market has to be small enough. So if you say it's all of transportation, but you focus it on sports cars in the US, I, as the investor, am going to ask in blue, yeah, but isn't that still a huge stretch? You can respond back, yeah, it's an X billion-dollar market growing at Y%. I'm not convinced yet. So then you can come back and say, yeah, but we're going to address two-door sports cars for those seeking status and high performance. So our segment addressable market is only 15% of that TAM. Well, I'm not convinced yet. Tell me the homework you've done. Tell me why you believe that's true. You're going to say, well, we're also going to be able to get some share from other luxury status goods, but we haven't included that in our modeling. Okay, you're convincing me there's upside potential, may not buy it. But then you're going deep. You're saying we're going to get 5% of the US two-door sports car market by 2025. We're going to meet our goals. I'm going to say, I don't believe you as a new car vendor can get 5% of the US two-door sports market by 2025. So you can come back and say, but our models show we're going to break even with only a 2% share. Okay, now I know you've modeled some risk. It's a little better, but 2% is not a critical mass to make a breakthrough. So then you have to convince me that your spending plan, your go-to-market plan, and your product features support achieving that 5% market share. And your competitive understanding and your financial work are going to be the make or break as to whether that's credible to me as an investor. So for every slide that you present, you're going to have pages and pages of information, insight, and then numbers, analysis that support your assumptions in this model that you're going to try and sell me as the investor on. So that's what you're digging deep to do. That's where I want to leave you. I could do 3 more hours, but we're not. Right, Misty? Okay, so we have some questions.
Please, yeah, turn your cameras and mics on. Get all your questions out to Catherine.
Okay, Rachel, what do you see for me?
There's a question about a quadrant. I don't know if there's still that question out there, Julie or others to get us started. Misty addressed some of it in the chat.
Okay, so Misty addressed the question. The question was, oh, is the positioning of your competitors based on data, or are you just putting them in a quadrant? I prefer my positioning based on data. So I want to have some underpinning of magnitude and scale along the axes so that you can articulate that. But so the price axis in that one example I showed, I would absolutely want data to support exactly where the price positioning was on affordability based on total cost of ownership, not just purchase price. depending on the product. But on that ease of use, you may not have an exact scale, but you're going to have a table of information that has those check boxes of why you think you're addressing the ease of use issue based on the customer's criteria of ease of use and your competitors are not. And the more of those, customer chats or message boards or whatever else it may be, where you've got customer information as to why ease of use might be an issue for that customer, that's going to be underpinning where you're going to be placing your product and your competitors' products in that competitive quadrant. Other questions on anything from Tam Sam Som all the way through to what does this mean when I go to market? Or how do I start for my specific industry or market?
Your mic is working, but I think Tam's got one.
I see, how can I get customer feedback without customers? It's prospects. What you need to have is an understanding of again, the persona, the type of person, and whether it's a vertical industry. So are you developing a service that you think either bankers or lawyers might be interested for higher security transaction information? Well, if you don't know yet if it's bankers or lawyers, and you don't know whether it's loan officers or whether it's risk managers, you need to set up an interview with each of those possible customers and talk to them about what their needs are within the sphere of what you're working on from a solution perspective, and listen openly about what problems they're trying to solve first, and then discuss with them how you're approaching a solution and see if they even resonate with it, if they have any interest at all. And if so, who in their industry they think might be more interested than they are. And if they say, oh yeah, I think, risk management would be far more interested in this than loan officers, you ask them, is there someone in risk management who might be willing to talk to me about this? And get that referral, because if you can get a warm referral to the next potential customer, you've got a much higher probability that they're going to say yes. They'll spend 20 minutes with you on a quick call to help you develop your product or service.
All right.
Go ahead.
Thank you. This is Tim. That was my question. And my target market is college professors.
Okay.
And I have reached out to several college professors that I personally know, and some cold calls to other educators that I don't know, and I've gotten 0 responses. So I know for a fact college professors are very busy people.
They are.
And if you get them to talk to you for 10 minutes, on something like this, it's a miracle. So my challenge is just getting somebody to talk to, somebody to sign up to a website they don't know exists. And I've done some marketing on Twitter and gotten 0 clicks.
Yeah, Twitter I wouldn't think would be, you're really looking for person-to-person warm leads when you're in this 5 to 7 people.
Sure.
And so just the fact that you have SDAC here and they're connected with the university in multiple universities in multiple ways in your area, can they help you find someone who can be a point of entry or a warm lead for someone you can talk to for 20 minutes about your product or service? And then that person might give you insights as to how best to reach out to individuals. The folks I know who have to market to veterinarians or doctors find the same thing, that they have these beautiful filters set up So because all the pharmaceutical companies and all the medical supply all want to talk to all the doctors all the time, and they're busy all the time. And the ones who get their time and attention are the ones who are willing to buy them breakfast or give them something of value to them, or are connected to them through an association, often alumni groups, peers who graduated college with you, who might be interested in reconnecting. And if some of them are college professors, you can use that peer-to-peer alumni network and say, hey,
Right.
Joe, I knew you back when. I see you're a professor now. I've got this incredible idea. Can I spend 15 minutes talking with you about it? But yeah, getting those interviews can be a real challenge.
Okay, so who in this organization would be appropriate to reach out to say, connect me with professors at San Diego, University of San Diego?
Okay, Misty, Rachel, Rachel's mic isn't working, so I guess that falls on Misty.
Yeah, so I'll take it. So Tim, reach out to me and I'll see. Be specific about what kind of professors you want to talk to, if they teach particular topics or particular methods or something like that.
And do you want associate professors who are just starting out, or are you looking for tenured professors who are at the back end of their career? Are you looking for research professors or teaching
Sure.
professors?
I'll make that clear.
Okay,
Right.
perfect.
Okay.
Alejandro, I think you're next. You want to ask the question?
Sure, thank you. Catherine, this is Alex or Alejandro. I have a question in regards to the value for the investor for the TAM versus the SOM. And the reason I'm asking the question is that how wide of a net do I need to throw out there with the TAM? If I have a product or service that has a global potential, but I only want to address the US market, I mean, I could spend hours on the global market, but it's not relevant because I'm going to start with the SOM. But does the investor want to know more about the TAM or the SOM?
What I try to do in that case is I try to really focus on the US TAM and then articulate the global market as legs, as that upside potential. Saying,
Okay.
you know, once we have absolutely knocked the ball out of the ballpark in the US, we can go after these adjacent geographic markets. You can go global, or you can say, you know, we'll do North America first, then we'll do South America, then we'll do Europe, then we'll do Asia. I mean, you can, depending on who the customer is and how similar the needs are, but I always keep that as upside potential, not part of the baseline plan and forecast. But the flip side of that is I always look at my competitors on that global market, the worldwide, because you never know when the European competitor is going to enter the US market. And if that changes the market dynamics and increases your risk significantly, you want to go into that eyes wide open. And it's going to be one of the questions that your investors is going to ask you is, what if XYZ from China comes in? What if Joe Blow from the UK comes in? How are you going to address that? So you have to think of it as a worldwide market, but address your potential and plan as the US market.
Perfect. Thank you. That was a great answer. Thank you.
Okay, crystals. What does SWOT stand for? That's one of my backup slides. So let me see if I can go to it. Oops. I am stopping sharing. Ooh, where did everything go? I'm going to exit the show mode. And we're going to go here to SWOT is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And you will find this in most business planning. Oh, I took out my SWOT slide. Never mind. Oh no, here it is. So here's an example SWOT. Do you guys see this? Oh, I can't see anybody.
No, it's not shared.
Okay, I'm coming back to sharing. Hang with me for a second. Share, present. Now, do you see it?
Yes.
Okay, so a SWOT is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And it is a construct that's used to help companies identify internal and external changes in the marketplace. So attributes of the company and the technology, or attributes of the market that are either helpful or harmful. If it's internal and helpful, it's a strength. So this gray quadrant is strengths. If it's helpful and external, it's an opportunity. If it's internal and harmful, it's a weakness. And if it's external and harmful, it's a threat. And it's just a way to categorize and classify these risks that we talk about as we understand how we will compete in a dynamic marketplace. So that's what a SWOT is. Misty, is there going to be a training on SWOT at all through this program?
I actually promised to deliver one last year and we didn't get it together. So we definitely should.
Okay. I know if you go through the Brink, they have some good classes in their startup series on preparing your SWOT. So if you're a little further out from launch and money and want to become a client of the Brink and have them help you through the customer understanding and the SWOT process, they have some very good classes that they can refer you to, and Rachel could connect you to those. So highly recommended, but that's what SWOT stands for: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Sorry, I don't have a more clear slide on that. I'll add that to my deck for next time. Okay.
We probably have time for 2 more, then we're going to move to the breakout sessions and people can come and keep asking you stuff.
Byron asked the question of all questions: getting customer feedback if you're selling IP and invention to a business. So that really, you get that customer feedback by actually going in and doing the pitch. It's a very different process when you're selling IP or patents, and it would take us totally offline. But it's all about by actually setting up that meeting and doing the pitch, and they'll give you the feedback as to whether or not you've got something that they're interested in. And then Alex and Byron, the next questions. Crystal's asking about prototypes. Those questions are going to be better for another conversation about proof of concept. So Missy, can you recommend which of the sessions might go in more to proof of concept and early manufacturing? Oh, muted.
I don't know that we have one in this series. Actually, I know that the Brink's got some things they've done in the past. I don't know if they've got anything on there. That's probably better. Hey, Rachel, do you want to come over here and answer the question? Rachel's in the other room.
Yeah.
I suppose that we have a way that we can solve a problem like
that would solve a problem.
Hey, there you go. We've got Rachel.
I've been chatting with that question too, that we have a list of some manufacturers. It really depends on what you're trying to build. So if you want to just email me, I put my email in the chat.
Great.
Catherine.
Super. Everybody else know to ask your investors then who they think your benchmarking competitors are. You're going to create a workbook where you're collecting all of this information. You're going to translate it to financials and a model with assumptions and risks. And it's all going to be grounded in the customer and your understanding of that customer and what their specific persona, profile, and needs are.
All right, I think we're going to wrap up there and move to our breakout rooms. I'd appreciate